Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Wednesday, March 26th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can, Cash App, $ORIONNWSF, or the YouTube Super Chat right here. Now, MLB opening day for 2025 is tomorrow on Thursday, March 27th. But again, we want to make sure we're going over a quick preview and predictions for the Seattle Mariners. And obviously, if we have time, we can kind of go over some of the predictions and projected starting lineups, records, anything else that we want to kind of go over for any of the individuals in the room that want to go over their team as well. Wasn't planning on having this stream, be too long, maybe about an hour to 2 hours. And then I'm going to go spend some time with Paisley. But I definitely wanted to kind of go into what's, on tap, so to speak, as we're getting into the 2025 season. How good are the Mariners going to be? How healthy are we? Can we actually win the AL West this year? These questions will be answered, and I will go over some of the starting lineups as well. Now let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get into the stream. We'll be shooting for 20 likes, obviously, within the first hour, 30 to 50 if we hit the algorithm, and obviously 100 in the donos on every single stream. Let's get it. And I decided to do something a little bit different with the thumbnail today, but I wanted to hit you with that beautiful Seattle background. So I ended up putting up some of the favorites on the team that will have great years this season. It is no longer the era of Scott Service, thank God. Dan Wilson leading the crew. I like it. We got Edgar Martinez, Ichiro, Randy Johnson, Ken Griffey Jr., and a lot of the old heads coming back to kind of give their input on hitting and whatnot. But Logan Gilbert will be getting the nod tomorrow. Julio and Cal obviously going to be doing big things, and Cal just fresh off that 6-year extension for $105 million at a discount. We love that, and I can't wait for my guy Bryan Woo. Let's go, baby. Seattle Mariners 2025 season preview. Let's get it, baby. Cole in the building, what's good? How are you? Sarah in the building, what's good? Reflect in the building, what's good? And again, I've done the projected lineups, obviously, and this may be not 100%, but this is just kind of what I'm thinking based on watching almost every single spring training game. Now, there were certain individuals that were in a battle for the position. But again, if you had a slow spring training, they may opt to go a different direction. Now, we ended up bringing in, some newbies, Mastroboni from the Cubs, Solano from the Padres. And I know some people thought, oh, these guys are going to start right out of the gates. Pump the brakes a little bit. If you actually look at our lineup and the way that it's structured, there are certain positions that are kind of already set in stone. So let's go over the projected starting lineup, obviously, here for the Mariners. And again, we'll be doing the game 7 o'clock. Obviously, I'll be live. That way I can do the starting lineups, obviously, for both. But we'll get opening pitch on 7:10 roughly. If it ends up starting exactly on time or a few minutes late, we'll have to kind of wait and see. They have the player introductions where they run through the tunnel, fireworks go off, crowd gets hyped. But this is kind of what I'm thinking here. And again, it may not be 100% correct, but this is kind of what I'm thinking going into the season and going into tomorrow. So leading off for the Mariners in right field, we get a full year of one of the best players on the team overall. Now, a lot of times, we say that, oh, Julio, and we know Cal Raleigh, what he means based off his leadership, his defense, and everything else that he brings. But this guy right here will be a big, cog in the wheel, so to speak, if we are going to be electric. And if we're going to end up winning 88 to 90 games, then that's my prediction for the year going in. I'm really going to be shooting for 90 and 72, but, at the low end, we got to be getting 88 or 89 wins, because if we get less than 88, we're not going to make the wild card. There's just too much competition in the American League. So 88 to 90 wins. I would love to be able to get more than 90, but I want to keep expectations a little bit light. And if we end up hitting 95 to 100, great. But if not, let's try to go for that 88 to 90 and have a high ceiling. leading off for the Mariners in right field for a full season. He'll be bunting, he'll be stealing bags, he'll be moving runners over, and this will be one of the main pieces to get us going. Victor Robles. Now, for JP Crawford fans, again, it's going to be a little bit of an ego hit to go from the 1 hole to the 9 hole. But this is the correct move, and any Seattle Mariner fan that watched Victor Robles understood the assignment that he had coming in. Before he ended up getting a little bit banged up in 2024, he was putting up all-star type of numbers, and I expect him to do the same here in 2025. Batting second, you know what it is. Center fielder, the most popular player on the Mariners. Even though you might be the most popular, doesn't necessarily mean the best, but we definitely need you to get back to your rookie season in 2022. I need 40 home runs. I need 40 stolen bags. I mean, I know some people will take 30 and 30, and yes, I'll take that. But with Julio's potential, let's try to shoot for a little bit higher. Let's go for 40 home runs, 40 stolen bags. Let's get that batting average up. But if you end up not hitting that number, at least 30 home runs, 30 stolen bags in the 2 hole, solidified, for at least the time being, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Batting third, the guy freshly off a 6-year extension. Boras got fired. He ended up getting a new agent, and it worked out for the best. Took a team-friendly deal, 6-year extension, no trade clause, $105 million. There's only 3 catchers that are getting over $100 million right now. Will Smith for the Dodgers, JT Realmuto for the Phillies, and the Mariners, Cal Raleigh. Big dumper. And, if I'm looking at the league as a whole, even if I wasn't a Mariner fan, I still would want Cal Raleigh to be my catcher. I honestly think, Mariner fan or not, I definitely think he is one of the top 2, if not the best catcher in the league. And, Big Dumper has been doing things that I feel that, people need to be put on notice. If you watch the Mariners, right, on an everyday basis, you get it, right? But you can't just judge a player based off batting average alone. Now, I know we used to do that back in the 80s and 90s, but with analytics and metrics involved. All right, let me give you a few stats for Cal Raleigh in his first 4 seasons with the Mariners. All right. Hold tight real quick right here. 2024 AL Gold Glove and Platinum Glove Award winner. And they said that this guy wasn't even good enough to be on the All-Star team last year, right? They didn't even have him in the top 10. And at the end of the year in the voting, he was number 1. Stop playing games with my guy, Cal Raleigh. Has led MLB catchers in home runs in 3 consecutive seasons. Yeah, his batting average might be 200 to 220, but you can't tell me batting average is the only thing that matters nowadays. Has led MLB catchers in caught stealing in 2 consecutive seasons. So not only can he bring the hammer and he can bring the wood and he can end up going yard, Big Dumper can go back, gone, but he's also the best defensive catcher, throwing guys out at first and second, and he's been number 1 in the last 2 seasons. 93 career home runs are most through a catcher's first 4 seasons in MLB history. Over any catcher that has ever played the game in over 100 years, Cal Raleigh, number 1, 93 career home runs, most through a catcher's first 4 seasons in MLB history, not in Mariners history. We're not talking about Zunino and Dan Wilson beating them. No. We're talking about beating every catcher, even the ones that are in the Hall of Fame. And 93 career home runs are most through a Mariners player's first 4 seasons with the team. And again, a lot of people thought it was probably going to be this guy, coming out of the gates. And again, we want you to bounce back, but let's not for just 1 second. You're the most popular, but you let us down last year. And, even though your batting average wasn't, so to speak, great, the whole team sucked, in batting average 200 to 220. I do think that we will improve on that. I'm hoping somewhere between 230 and 250 as a team. We were top 2 in spring training and hitting, and it's all going to start with this guy right here, tridents up, number 3, catcher, Cal Raleigh. Batting cleanup and batting fourth, left fielder, Randy Arozarena. Now, this was the biggest name coming out of free agency, last season. right? At the trade deadline, we needed a little bit of a lift. Now, I did see Randy kind of take some plays off, in left field last year. I know he likes to have fun out there, but we want to make sure that we're getting the effort. And now having Victor Robles in right, Julio in center, and Randy in left, I assume that he will be able to step up his game this season. And again, our outfield is one of the best, if not the best, player for player in the entire major leagues. Let's go, Randy. Batting fifth, filling up a spot at first base. We were thinking, okay, you got Tyler Locklear in the minors, you got Luke Raley, you got a few others that, might be in consideration of the position at some point or another. We got guys in the farm system, but I think our first base position is pretty solidified in the 5-hole. You already know what it is. It's Luke Raley. Let's go, Luke. Can't wait to see what you can do this season. And Luke Raley is a guy that can get you 20 to 35 homers. We just don't know which Luke will step up in 2025. Batting sixth at third base, playing a new position. He's got new sunglasses. He's got a new approach. And again, I'm not sure if it was just the injuries alone, but again, he definitely has stepped up in a major way in spring training. We don't know if it will carry over into the regular season, but I'm pulling for him. I wasn't really a big fan of you, Polo, or Mitch Garver, but I'll be pulling for both y'all. Number 6 in the lineup, third baseman this season, Jorge Polanco. Batting 7th, making his way from the minors, having a great spring training, and it's the first time in Mariner history in quite some time, right, where we actually know who our DH is before the season starts. We don't have to wait 80 games to finally put in Mike Ford and figure out that we like the guys. As if they played football, we would call these guys, if they were able to scoop and score, those guys would be thick 6, right? And we have guys that are thick. We're Jared Vogelback, right? Carlos Santana, Mike Ford, and now we got Rowdy Tellez. He always did well against the Mariners. I like this and the 7-hole, and hopefully Rowdy can keep this position for the whole year. And again, if he struggles, you got Mastroboni, you got Solano, you got Dylan Moore, you got a lot of these other guys that could get a chance, right? We let Mitch Haniger go. We don't got to worry about that. Rowdy Tellez, you might strike out a lot, but you're going to get some home runs and some singles and some doubles. Let's get it. In the 8-hole. Now, I know a lot of people were thinking that it might be Dylan Moore at second base, but Dylan really struggled, obviously, in spring training. I think he only got 1 hit out of 20 at-bats. So I feel that at this point, if they decide to go Dylan Moore at second base tomorrow, it would be a little shocking, but I think Ryan Bliss gives you a little bit more upside. He is still a little raw, obviously offensively, but defensively, I like him a little bit better than Dylan Moore, and I think that this will be the spot for him, at least for the time being, unless he fucks up or get injured, and then we might have to make a change. In the 8-hole, second baseman Ryan Bliss over Dylan Moore. And in the 9-hole, a guy that's ego might be a little bit bruised, shortstop J.P. Crawford. This will be a great opportunity for you to have a bounce-back season. And again, to go from the leadoff guy to the 9-hole could feel like a big demotion. And in some retrospect, it is. But you have to think, if we start an inning off with J.P. Crawford and then we go in to Victor Robles and Julio Rodriguez, 9-1-2, right? And you can get some good production out of J.P. Crawford. He could actually become very, very valuable on the bottom end of that lineup, because on the top, it looks strong. Robles, J-Rod, Big Dumper, Randy Arozarena, Luke Raley. That looks pretty fucking solid. The question marks on every single team is always going to be 6 through 9. And depending on what we get from the 6-hole, Jorge Polanco, the 7-hole, Rowdy Tellez, the 8-hole, Ryan Bliss, the 9-hole, J.P. Crawford. If we get good production out of these players at first, third, DH, second, and short, or if they have to get replaced by guys in the farm system or guys on the bench like Solano, Mastroboni, this could be the difference from us making the playoffs or barely missing the playoffs. The difference between getting the 88 and 90 wins or maybe getting the 80 to 85 wins. So we really have to hope and pray that Polo, Rowdy, Bliss, JP can come to play. And obviously on the mound for opening day, it's our guy, Walter, a.k.a. Logan Gilbert. Let's fucking go. So that was all done, all off the top. And again, I have to go through the comments here and get caught up. I also can go over the athletic lineup as well, because I did some research on that too. And then anything else that we want to go over, predictions, preview, record, anything that you guys want to discuss and type in the chat, go right ahead. And again, we'll be continuing this as we go on, but I kind of wanted to get all that information out just to kind of start it off, and then we'll go from there. So let's go back to the top of the comments. And I know you're very excited. I'm ready. We got the storm coming through here in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't know if you're going to be involved directly in it, but there's supposed to be quarter-size hail in the Pacific Northwest where Reflect lives. We're not getting it here. We're getting some rain, but I don't think we're going to get the thunderstorm or the quarter-size hail, which is very unusual for Oregon and Washington. So stay safe out there, but I can't wait for tomorrow, and I know you as well. Let's go, M's. All right, let's keep scrolling down here. STL in the building. What's good? Sarah in the building. What's good? How are you? Yes, and I know, out of everyone that's on this channel, I feel that you and me are, probably the most, as far as or the way our brains work, and the way that we think about analytics and statistics, we go a lot deeper than most people on the channel, and a lot of people on this channel go much deeper than any other channel or anything else that's on TV. So again, we're always going to be able to give you the metrics and the analytics, but again, this is the first time that we've had a good leadoff hitter. I don't want to say JP Crawford was never good at the leadoff position. He had his moments, but let's be real. This is the best leadoff hitter we've had since Ichiro Suzuki. And again, if Victor Robles can play like he did last season for a full season, he's going to be in the running for the All-Star game. And again, we assume that Julio hopefully will have a bounce back year. Cal will get the recognition that he deserves. Maybe we'll have a pitcher or two or three get recognized, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get in. But again, this is definitely a game of firsts, and it's very exciting to have a leadoff guy that can steal bases, that can bunt, move guys over, but most importantly, he's a great teammate. And it ends up bringing, Julio and Randy Arozarena the focus together, where they can have fun in the outfield together. They can end up having custom handshakes, custom celebrations. But at the end of the day, we need these guys locked in. And I'm so happy that we have a guy like Victor Robles. And remember, it's always better to take care of the players that you have in your own building rather than getting other guys from other teams coming in. You make sure you take care of the greats that are there. You don't let them walk. You keep in a homegrown talent here, and then you'll end up getting better instead of having to try to rebuild year in and year out. 100%, you are correct. Let's keep scrolling down. Yes, that's a good kind of retrospect right there with Paul Molitor. And again, if you're old enough, you remember him, with the Brewers. If not, go and look at some tape on YouTube and whatnot. But again, Robles, and the crazy thing is, and again, we saw this last year in the 2024 season. If you said, who is the person that we can't have out of the lineup? And, because if they're out, we're going to lose. And some people said, oh, Julio. Oh, some people said Cal. But in retrospect, if we didn't have Victor Robles, we lost almost every single time, because you need to make sure you have someone to, set the tempo and get on base early. And when Victor gets a hit, and his first at bat, the chances of us scoring in that first inning goes up dramatically. Now, could we end up hitting into a double play by Julio or Cal? Of course. We know the Mariners always get into trouble hitting into double plays, but hopefully we can end up, defending some good double plays on our defense. But again, having Robles instead of JP Crawford, in the leadoff spot, that could end up giving us 5 to 10 more wins. Not to say that JP Crawford is washed. I'm not saying that one bit, but there's a reason that JP went from the 1 hole, got hurt, went to the 9 hole, and we ended up getting someone better at the top of the order. But JP can still have an impact in the 9 hole, especially when we start off an inning 9-1-2. Facts. Yes. Yeah, and I was looking at the weather report based on where you live. Is the quarter size hail supposed to be east of you? It's supposed to be a little bit like to the east, unless I was reading that map wrong and whatnot. But you let me know. But hopefully that you'll be okay, and hopefully we'll get everyone. They get their cars and their trucks and everything protected. Because if you leave your vehicle out there with quarter-size hail, which is something that we don't get here in Oregon and Washington, who the hell knows how long it's going to last? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half hour to an hour. You might end up having some broken windshields, some broken glass, and obviously some damage to not only maybe some vehicles, but potentially some businesses as well. So we'll definitely have to keep a quick eye and a close eye on that here later tonight and going into tomorrow. But I'm hoping that you will be okay. Wouldn't be able to take Paisley out on a walk like that. So Big Dumper, baby. And again, for anyone that's on X or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook that's not a Mariner fan and they think that we overpaid and they think that Big Dumper sucks, that tells me that they're not watching the Mariners, and the only stat that they're looking at is batting average. And again, batting average is important, but it doesn't mean that if the batting average is a little lower, that doesn't mean that the player isn't good. Like, imagine if Cal Raleigh was batting 300, but only averaged 8 home runs a year, right? Wasn't good at defense, wasn't a good leader, right? And then that would make him an all-star to some people, that you're batting 300, but you can only hit 5 to 8 homers. You're not good at defense. That equates to an all-star player. So it makes you kind of understand the people that are actually watching games, and the people that are just hating. But Big Dumper is special, and I'm going to be honest, it's probably the happiest that every Mariner fan has been. We all agree the management and the ownership sucks, right? We all agree to that. But this is the one thing that has brought Mariner fans together collectively since 2022, with Cal Raleigh coincidentally hitting the home run off the A's and actually getting us into the postseason for the first time in 20 plus years. Again, Julio is a big name, but the Big Dumper has been more influential in the culture change in Seattle and Oregon in the Pacific Northwest than any other player. Yeah, we have great pitching staff with Logan Gilbert and George Kirby. They're great. Julio is great. We got Ready Service, we got Dan Wilson, we got Edgar Martinez, we got Ichiro, Griffey, Randy Johnson, making visits and helping out, But again, Cal Raleigh, what he does offensively, defensively, his clutch hitting, and his overall, just maturity and wanting to be here, and, putting the team on his back. It's fantastic, and I haven't been more excited to hear the news of Big Dumper obviously coming back with a no-trade clause, and I can't wait to see a lot of smiles just like this. Trident's up. Let's go. All right, let's keep scrolling down here. Man, you and me both. And again, anyone that's got T-Mobile, make sure you guys go to your T-Mobile mobile app. You can get MLB TV for free, which is a $150 value, which is kind of like extra innings where you can watch any team, any game. Now, I assume some of the Mariner content, or depending on where you live, your local team, some of that might be blacked out. Depending on how you have to watch your game and the contract that they have with whatever they have, their own app or whatever. And it doesn't count for Apple TV Plus or ESPN broadcast. But again, you get that free with T-Mobile, as well as certain plans will give you Netflix and Apple TV Plus that I have for free. And some plans will even give you Hulu. But right now I got MLB TV for free, $150 value. And you don't have to do anything. Literally click a couple buttons, log in, and boom, you have it. And so I will probably end up using that, or at least trying to use it for some of the Mariner games. Obviously, I have streaming links. Now, I got Xfinity in the living room, and then I'm not going to do it for the whole season, but I might invest in that Root Sports app for like a month to really see the difference between streaming links and that. Is there a difference? Is there a little bit of a lag? Do I really need to pay $20 a month? Or if you end up having another link and being like 5 to 10 seconds behind, because $20 a month is pretty spendy for a Root Sports app for just the Mariners alone. If it was $10, people would be pissed, but they would do it. $20, you're only going to get a fraction of the people that are going to want to do that. And I know a lot of people, are going to boycott. A lot of people are pissed, that we didn't make enough moves. Opening day, there was a kind of a concern that maybe we wouldn't sell out and whatnot. But again, make sure you do that if you got T-Mobile. It gives you a free opportunity depending on your plan for Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV Plus, and then the MLB, obviously, TV, which will allow you to watch games of many, many teams. But you may not get all of your home team, at that time. Just a heads up. No, Chief has no beef with nobody in the room. Yeah, and then obviously with Garver, he looked a little bit better, in spring training as well. He was actually going yard, backup catcher, and again, a big drop off. Obviously after Cal Raleigh, but, instead of getting threats, from people on social media, for him and his family and whatnot, hopefully now, he can kind of settle in and we can get the Mitch Garver that was on the Texas Rangers that won the World Series rather than the Mitch Garver that we ended up getting last season that lost all his confidence, lost all his swag. Everyone turned on him, including me and a lot of y'all. And hopefully that Garver and Polo can bounce back because I don't like rooting against players on the team. But again, if someone is struggling or bad, we have to call it out. We're not going to just give guys a free pass, especially if they're, in the process of kind of helping us lose. We want to win. So shout out to Mitch Garver, shout out to Polo, and hopefully they'll have a little bit of a bounce back year. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, we're going from, 200 to 220. Even if we had 230, 235, it would be a drastic improvement. If we can go from 230 to 250, somewhere in there, I'm not saying that we're going to do that the whole year, but if we can range, from 230 to 250, maybe 250 for a couple weeks, then go down to 240, then maybe, go down to, 225 for a week or two, maybe hit 250 for, 3 weeks, then go, as long as we're in that 230 to 250 range, it could be huge. But, even on the low end, going from 200 to 220 batting average to 230 could be huge. And again, based on spring training, we were one of the top 2 hitting teams. And that's a good sign, especially with some of the newbies like Mastroboni coming in from the Cubs, as well as Solano from the Padres, just to name a few. MSU in the building. What's good? Hopefully Scooball and company can end up having a fantastic year for you. I'll be watching a lot of your games as well. Reflect with a 3-year. Appreciate you. Apologize I didn't get to that sooner, but I wanted to go over the lineup and everything else. Took a little time to prep with this stream. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks, a little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. And I feel also, I thank you so much. Let me know what you want to do for photos. $10 holla by Captain Oreo. Good to see you in the room as well. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks, a little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. But you two let me know what you want. I assume that you want a little bit of Big Dumper there as well. But this is the most, I feel, excitement that we've had for, this particular team, in quite a while. And not only the guys that are on the team now, but the outlook of the guys that are in the farm system, right? With Celestin, Feldman, right? A lot of high upside, right? Harry Ford, a little upside, right? Lazaro Montes, Cole Young, Cole Emerson. I mean, those are just 5 of the 8 or 9 guys that we got. We still got Locklear and other guys that are kind of working on their craft. But again, I'm very excited. Don't be surprised if we end up calling up 1 or 2 guys at some point in the season. We may not call up anybody, but there is a chance, depending on what happens with injuries and whatnot, that we might end up calling up, 1 or 2 guys. And, what 1 or 2 guys will get called up, we don't know that answer yet either. But definitely exciting with Celestin, Harry Ford, Lazaro Montes, Cole Young, Colt Emerson. I've been saying these fucking names for like the last 3 to 4 years, but this will actually be the year where we actually might see them with the starting lineup. Very exciting. And then going into next year and the following year, some of these guys might get traded like Harry Ford. Some of them might be on the team, but very, very exciting times here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon and Washington, or if you're a Mariner fan across the globe. Appreciate you. $3 holla. Appreciate you. $10 holla. Let me know what you guys want to do for photos, and I got you. We're at 13, 87 to go. Yes, I'm going to go into the division as well. Absolutely. And I'm going to go into the athletic projected lineup. I went over that as well. I put in some work, so I'll go over that here in just one moment. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, definitely excited about what you guys got going there with your pitching staff and your young guns. I can't wait for you guys to be able to play us again. And again, I know how you guys are. You guys got hot at the right time, and I wish you guys all the best, and hopefully you don't have a whole lot of injuries. Britt in the building. Let's go, Garver. Why am I not surprised that she said that? Love ya, miss ya. Hope you're doing a little bit better, and hopefully you're getting over a little bit of the cold or flu that you feel that you got a few days back. Hope that you feel better, and I'm glad to see you in the room. just scrolling down, trying to get caught up in the comments here. I'm almost caught up. Hey, maybe a historic hailstorm might be a little sign there from the sports gods. Dick? Jacob in the building. What's good? All right, I'm almost caught up. No, Sauce is still on the team, to my knowledge. And again, Brash looked really good, with the limited time that he had. So to have Brash, right, and then Santos, and then Munoz, and then maybe we'll see Durangelo, switch pitch, lefty or righty. Maybe they'll throw him in the 6th inning, Brash in the 7th, or vice versa. We might be able to see like one of those new guys, come in and see what they can end up doing. And if you remember, kind of late in the season, we ended up having a few guys towards the end that ended up, making a little bit of a name for themselves as well. So I'm definitely excited to see where things are going to be able to go for us in the future. And it may not take too long to realize what we have, but remember Troy Taylor? That's another guy that we got that we could throw in there in the bullpen. So we might not even need to see Durangelo at any point, but it would be cool to see someone pitch, lefty and righty in the same inning. Big facts. All right, I'm almost caught up here. But I definitely think we have a very good chance to win the division, compared to the rest of the division that, what we have. Let's get a couple photos of Cal, here up for Reflect as well as Captain. And then we'll get into the Athletics, and then we'll move over to the other teams and kind of a projection there as well. I did a lot of work, for the stream. So, but again, I don't know how long we're going to end up streaming for. I was thinking an hour to 2 hours. We don't need to make it too long, but just depending on who shows up and, what we want to go over. But I appreciate you guys very much, and got a new spinning logo there with the MLB. I got the 4th of July version that will bust out at that particular time, which is this one here. But again, I figured going with a regular one will look a little bit cleaner on the stream. And now let's get into the projected starting lineup for the Athletics. And obviously they're no longer in Oakland. And again, we'll see how they do. I assume that they're going to surprise some people. If I had to choose, out of, 3-4 teams that could surprise, the A's are very high on my list. Leading off for the A's in right field. This is my projected 1 through 9 for the Athletics tomorrow. Right fielder, Lawrence Butler. And this guy's a stud. Second best player to Brent Rooker, who will be number 2 at DH. But this is one of the best 1-2 combos in the entire league. Don't be surprised if we end up losing, in game number 1 or game number 2. This is going to be a big part of it. Lawrence Butler in the leadoff spot and batting second, DHing Brent Rooker. 2 guys are absolute studs. And again, it's not going to be easy, playing the A's. The Angels are going to be the worst team in the division, and people assume the A's will be 4th, and then where does that leave? Does that leave the Rangers in 3rd, Astros in 2nd, Mariners in 1st? Possibly, but we'll have to wait and see. Batting 3rd, center fielder, J.J. Bleday. Batting cleanup, batting 4th, catcher, Shea Langeliers. Batting 5th, playing left field for the A's, Miguel Andujar. Batting 6th, playing first base, Tyler Soderstrom. Batting 7th, third baseman, new addition, Gio Urshela. Batting 8th, and we're not talking about the Dodger, but second baseman, Max Muncy. Same name, different team. And batting 9th, shortstop, Jacob Wilson. And then pitching against the Mariners tomorrow, Luis Severino. And again, we got Logan Gilbert versus Luis Severino. I like our chances. And then let's go over projected lineup for the other three teams. So projected lineup, obviously, for the other teams, we got leading off for the Angels, projected left fielder Taylor Ward. Batting second, first baseman Nolan Chanel. Batting third, right fielder Mike Trout. Batting fourth, DH Jorge Soler. Batting fifth, catcher Logan Ohapi. Batting sixth, Juan Moncada. Batting seventh, Luis Rengifo. Batting eighth, center fielder Joe Adell. And then batting ninth, Kevin Newman. And then obviously they'll be starting off with Yusei Kikuchi. And then after that, Tyler Anderson for the starters. That's for the Angels. Now let's go to the Astros, and then we'll do the Rangers. So for the Astros, projected leading off, they don't have one of their best pieces on the team anymore, Kyle Tucker. So that might influence, the difference between the Astros getting first or possibly getting second or third. But leading off, left fielder Jose Altuve. Batting second, third baseman Isaac Paredes. Batting third, DHing Yordan Alvarez. Batting fourth, first baseman, former Diamondback Christian Walker. Batting fifth, catcher Yanier Diaz. Batting sixth, right fielder Cam Smith. Batting seventh, shortstop, a guy that I like, Jeremy Pena. Batting eighth, second baseman Mauricio Dubon. And batting ninth, center fielder Jake Myers. So as you hear those names in the lineup, it definitely feels like the Astros aren't going to be the same team. Yes, they got Christian Walker to kind of fill in the gap, for Kyle Tucker. But again, if they have any injuries to Altuve, Walker, Alvarez, or Pena, they're fucked. So again, I feel like the Astros are still going to be our biggest threat with the Rangers. And I think the A's are going to be a little bit better as well. We don't have to necessarily worry as much for the Angels. I'm pretty sure that they're going to finish on the, dead bottom. But again, once we go over next, the Rangers, you'll kind of feel, will it be the Rangers and the Mariners, or the Astros and the Mariners, or maybe a three-way, kind of sprint between the Mariners, Astros, and Rangers with a little bit of A's sprinkled in. And then they're going to have their pitching staff is still elite. Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, starting it off on the 1 and 2 with a few others like Arrighetti and Blanco that are there, and closer Josh Hader. So it's not like the Astros are going to be terrible. They're still going to be very, very good and trying to compete for the divisional crown in the AL West. And then last but not least, let's go with the Rangers. Leading off for the Rangers, second baseman Marcus Semien. Batting second, shortstop Corey Seager. Batting third, left fielder Wyatt Langford. Batting fourth, right fielder Adolis Garcia. Batting fifth, DH Jock Peterson. Batting sixth, third baseman Josh Young. Batting seventh, first baseman Jake Berger. Batting eighth, catcher Jonah Heim. And batting ninth, center fielder Leody Taveras. So based on that, they're pretty much exactly what they were last year, and bringing in Jake Berger, who's actually a solid player. So, based on that, maybe it'll be a two-team race between the Rangers and the Mariners for first place. Hopefully the Mariners can get first, winning 88 to 90 games. Rangers get second, and then I would assume there'll be a battle with the Astros and the A's for third. But again, the way that the pecking order is looking, it kind of looks like it could be Mariners, Rangers, Astros, A's, Angels, but again, or it could end up being Rangers winning the division, Mariners second, Astros, A's, Angels. But that's kind of what I'm thinking, but again, some of the pitching staff has changed a little. But again, with the Rangers, they still have Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, and a few others. So again, pitching, is a little bit different, for the Rangers, but based off their lineup, pretty solid. And then even Evan Carter didn't make the team. He had to go down to the minors. So it shows you how much depth that the Rangers have. But it definitely feels like if they stay healthy, it should be a two-team race with the Astros, obviously lurking in the background with the A's. I don't think we got to worry about the Angels, but based on looking at the lineups, it kind of feels like the Rangers and the Mariners, to me, look like they're going to be the strongest. But if injuries end up happening, we can never doubt the Astros. They had a shitty, beginning of the year, right? And what happened? They ended up coming back and winning the division. So you never can count out the Astros. Yeah, all the allegations in the past, we get that, but that's one of those teams we'll see if the Kyle Tucker, absence is going to be big enough for them to not be as relevant, especially him going to the Cubs. I feel the Cubs will be better with them, obviously with, guys like, Pete Crow Armstrong and a few others. So we'll see how that goes. But if you're looking at that lineup, it's looking pretty strong. Obviously adding Berger, Jock Peterson, Rangers looking pretty solid. Really the only question mark for the Rangers will be pitching and obviously their closer. But other than that, we will see. Yeah, again, we might have to. It might be a 3-team race, and again, I'm not going to count out the A's. I know they don't have a building anymore. They're not located in Oakland. But if I had to choose, like 5 teams that I feel that are going to be better than people think, or even if I was going to choose 3 teams or 2 teams, one of the 2 would be the A's this year. I'm really a believer in Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker. And obviously, if you look at some of those other players on the roster, they don't really shoot off the page. But if you're a fan and you watch games from beginning to end, like here, we already know that you can't really take the A's for granted. Hell, we can't even take the Angels for granted, even if they end up being last place. Because again, sometimes, regardless if Mike Trout is playing or not, sometimes we get our ass kicked. Sometimes we get beat up a little bit. But again, I think that we're going to have a very, very good chance to win the division this year. And if we don't, I think that being in second place is a good goal. 88, 89 wins, we get second place. If we get 90 wins or more, then we're winning the division in the AL West. Yeah, I got to make sure I give fire photos for every team. Games on a big TV. That's always good. All right, Cardinals and Yankees. I got you. And I can do Red Sox for Brett or anybody else, once we go through these. So give me one sec. All right. And this is all projected. And we will see, how this goes. And the lineup that I'm going to end up giving you, it's going to include Burleson, who beat out Nolan Gorman and is one of the Cards' best pure hitters. So again, I know Sarah ended up watching, some spring training games, and we'll see where it goes with manager Oliver Marmol. Obviously debated using Nootbaar, Donovan, Scott, and Wynn in the leadoff spot. But obviously settled on Nootbaar after Wynn just hit .080 during spring training. So I think that, getting Mason Wynn, it's kind of like a J.P. Crawford situation with Mason Wynn. You were thinking, this could be someone that we could use, but it kind of feels that maybe this is the right decision. So leading off for the Cardinals in left field, Lars Nootbaar. Batting second, first baseman, Wilson Contreras. Batting third, second baseman, Brendan Donovan. Batting fourth, third baseman, Nolan Arenado. Batting fifth, DHing, Alec Burleson, like I mentioned just a moment ago. Batting sixth, catcher, Ivan Herrera. And the catching position has been a little suspect after one of their studs retired a few years ago. Batting seventh, right fielder, Jordan Walker. Hopefully he doesn't get sent down to AAA this year. Batting eighth, center fielder Victor Scott II, and then batting ninth, who was in the running for the leadoff spot, but more than likely will start off the year here because he had a rough spring training, shortstop, which we still like, Mason Wynn. So if there's anything there that I missed and anything else that you want to include, let me know. But again, I've done a lot of research. I've gone through a lot of different, team websites, a lot of, film study, and a lot of preparation for this stream. And then for your rotation, Sonny Gray leading off, Palente, Fedde, Mats, Mikolas. And obviously when Mikolas was like your number one, you knew you were fucked going into the year last year. So now you got Miles in the 5-hole, and that should definitely suit you guys better moving forward. And then your closer is Helsley. So we'll see where that goes moving forward. And then we'll do Yankees here. And then if you want me to go over the Red Sox for you, Britt, I can do that as well. All right, here we go. All right, so the Yankees have played more than 18,000 games in their team history. They have never, and I'll say it again, never had a catcher bat leadoff. But that could change this coming season as Aaron Boone, he is very seriously entertaining Wells as the table setter. Good on-base percentage, but we will wait and see. But I'm kind of thinking that's the route that they're going to go. And it's a little odd, because you got guys like Jazz Chisholm and a few others that, maybe could do that role. But again, it's all about trying to find the right lineup of getting on base, right? And finding that right guy. So leading off for the Yankees for the first time in their team history, and this may change throughout the year if Wells struggles, but leading off for the first time in team history, catcher Austin Wells. Batting second, right fielder Aaron Judge. Batting third, center fielder Cody Bellinger. Batting fourth, first baseman Paul Goldschmidt. Batting fifth, second baseman Jazz Chisholm Jr. Batting sixth, shortstop Anthony Volpe. Batting seventh, prospect left fielder Jason Dominguez. Batting eighth, DHing. More than likely, it'll start off as Ben Rice, but they may look for other areas. And batting ninth, third baseman Oswaldo Cabrera. So if you're looking at that team, pretty solid, 1 through 7. Ben Rice, Oswaldo Cabrera, we'll have to kind of wait and see for those guys. But Wells, Judge, Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Chisholm, Volpe, Dominguez, there's a lot of upside there, especially with guys, going to a new team like Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt. We don't really know. Jazz Chisholm, kind of struggled early on, but started to kind of get into the knack of things as the season went a little bit further. Volpe and Dominguez, homegrown talent, and hopefully they end up succeeding. But again, that's what they look like. A lot of big names there, with Bellinger and Goldschmidt in the starting lineup there, as well as Jazz being a new addition from the previous year as well. Yeah, and then with the Yankees, their big issue is going to be pitching, and that's why they are not going to represent the American League this year and make it to the World Series against the Dodgers again. Now, the Dodgers can make it again for sure. They have to be the favored team, just like when Tom Brady and Gronk were there for the Patriots, year in and year out, right? But again, no Garrett Cole. And if you don't have one of the top 5 pitchers playing, and you have season-ending Tommy John, that fucks everything up, for the team. Now you have Carlos Rodon as the 1, Max Fried as the 2, Marcus Stroman as the 3, Will Warren as the 4, Carlos Carrasco as the 5, and then Devin Williams as your closer. So I like the Devin Williams move there, but again, the pitching isn't as intimidating as it was with Garrett Cole at the top. So again, the Bombers pitching depth, it's been slammed. Garrett Cole out for the year. Tommy John, AL Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil lost for at least 3 months with a right lat strain. That's huge, because you could argue that Gil might have been their second best pitcher. And then good thing they signed Max Fried to that 8-year, $218 million deal after the Juan Soto pivot, because if they didn't get Max Fried, they would be so fucked, based on that, because they were thinking they were going to have Cole, Gil, Fried. And those three, when they're healthy, that's a monster big 3. Matching similar to what the Mariners could do with our guys, if it's Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Brian Wu, or Bryce Miller. So, again, that is going to be their bugaboo this year, will be the pitching staff. Anything else that you guys want me to go over, team-wise? Holler if you hear me. I can go over any team. I got AEW Dynamite on here as well. Britt, you still in the room? But I'm definitely very, very excited for tomorrow. A lot of preparation. And again, we do have a very, very good chance to start off the year with a few dubs. And again, I know I've been doing, Blazers and Kraken and Monday Night Raw and a lot of NASCAR. But now with the Mariners season in full swing, some of these things are going to have to take a step back. Trucks, will probably be eliminated, Xfinity will be eliminated. We'll be doing a little bit less of Blazers and Kraken, but we still may sprinkle some of those in. And then I'm still going to try to get some Monday Night Raws and at least NASCAR Cup Series on Sundays if I can. But obviously Mariners is going to take priority. But, depending on the time of the games and if there's a day off, on Monday, we can do Raw instead. And then depending on what time the Mariners are on a Sunday, if they have a day off, then we can do NASCAR Cup. But again, Mariners are going to be the priority. But I want to make sure that we, get a little bit of Monday Night Raw from time to time, as well as some NASCAR Cup, because I do enjoy it. But we will be doing a lot of Mariners. All right, let's go into the Red Sox for Britt to give her kind of an idea of what to expect here in the AL East. And the Red Sox are my other team besides the A's that I do think that they're going to be better than advertised. Nobody's talking about the Red Sox. Nobody's talking about the A's. And that's perfect for both of those teams. They've struggled quite a bit, either being in last or, fourth or fifth. So it hasn't really been too great. But I do like a lot of the players, on the team. So projected lineup for Britt as well as Judah for the Boston Red Sox. Leading off in left field, Jarren Duran. Love him. Batting second, DHing, Rafael Devers. Love him. Batting third baseman from the Astros. I don't love him, but I think he's a good player, Alex Bregman. Batting fourth, first baseman, Triston Casas. Love him. Batting fifth, shortstop, Trevor Story. Love him. Think he's very, got a lot of potential if he can stay injury-free. Batting sixth, right fielder, Wilyer Abreu. Batting seventh, catcher, Connor Wong. Batting eighth, second baseman, Christian Campbell. And then batting ninth, center fielder, Ceddanne Rafaela. So as you can see, the real big question marks for the Red Sox are going to be 6, 7, 8, and 9. What are you going to get out of Wilyer Abreu? Who knows? What are you going to get out of Connor Wong? Who knows? What are you going to get out of Christian Campbell? Who knows? And what are you going to get out of Ceddanne Rafaela? Who knows? But with that being said, Duran, Devers, Bregman, Casas, Story, that is a solid 1 through 5. So again, I could definitely see the Red Sox, if you get good numbers, out of those guys, it could be pretty big there. And then with Bregman's big right-handed bat added to the mix, Devers is expected to DH most of the time. They're loaded, obviously, there with the bats. But really, we need to figure out who's going to be playing second base. That's the biggest question. Is it Christian Campbell or is it somebody else? And then as far as the rotation, you got Crochet, left-handed pitcher who should be very, very good, obviously, for the Red Sox. Might actually be in the Cy Young running towards the end of the season. Then Tanner Houck, and then Walker Buehler from the Dodgers, Richard Fitz, and then Quinn Priester in their 5. And then Aroldis Chapman is their closer. So I definitely think that there is some potential with this Red Sox lineup. Blossoming ace Crochet, acquired through the trade, and veteran Buehler should help the rotation a big leap. And then Brian Bello, Cutter Crawford, Giolito. Obviously, they had some injuries there with obviously some of that depth. And then obviously Criswell and Newcomb are also being stretched out in camp and rotational options. So we'll have to see where that goes. But again, I definitely see some improvement there especially with Crochet and Buehler added to the lineup. They just need to stay healthy. Yeah, I don't know if that's really a surprise prediction. I would assume almost everyone will probably, assume that, It's like the Orioles have a good team, and obviously what the Yankees lost, there's going to be a new divisional winner, 100%. Yeah, to a certain degree, sometimes you can keep your homegrown talent there, but other times you're going to have to pick up players and, we'll see where it goes. But again, if those guys can stay healthy, you have a very loaded 1 through 5. Duran, Devers, Bregman, Casas, and Story. Those guys are solid. I watched a lot of them, throughout the years. So we'll see where it goes. And then if you can get anything in your 6 to 9 hole, you could actually climb in the standings quite a bit. 100% agree. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just like if Bregman joined the Mariners. I don't know how I would feel about it. It's like, you're part of that cheating crew, but again, it's a new team, and I hope that he does good for you, but I don't know how many people, Red Sox fans, are going to go out of their way and buy a Bregman jersey. I would assume they would be going for other guys on the team like Cassis, Devers, or Duran, but we'll see how he does. Not JT in the building. What's good? And then you want to do Dodgers for my dad? Okay, we can do that. I mean, the Dodger team is just fucking ridiculous. I mean, it's like literally a super team. And it wouldn't really shock me if they end up making it to the World Series again and winning again. I mean, really the only thing that can stop the Dodgers is the Dodgers with injuries. That's it. Nothing else can stop them, unless you end up getting some kind of flukish run by like the Padres or the Braves or the Diamondbacks or the Phillies, but we'll see. But I definitely think the A's will be better than last year. The Red Sox will be better than last year. And even though the Mets, made a little bit of a run at the end, I think the Mets will be better than they were last year as well, adding Juan Soto. I think he'll be huge for them. And a huge loss for, the Yankees. Even though you brought in Goldschmidt and you brought in, a Cody Bellinger, that's not Juan Soto. Even though Soto is kind of a suspect defender. He's a great hitter. All right, let's take a look at the Dodger lineup, which is absolutely ridiculous. Leading off, DHing Shohei Ohtani, the best baseball player that maybe has ever lived besides Babe Ruth. Batting second, shortstop Mookie Betts, who's got an illness. I don't know if it's COVID or what's going on, but I know he didn't really do too well. Wasn't there in the Tokyo series, and I know he's lost a bunch of weight, but hopefully he'll be ready for the regular season. Number two, Mookie Betts. Batting third, first baseman Freddie Freeman. Batting fourth and cleanup right fielder, Teoscar Hernandez. Batting fifth, catcher Will Smith. Batting sixth, left fielder Kike Hernandez. Batting seventh, third baseman Max Muncy. Batting eighth, second baseman Tommy Edman. And batting ninth, center fielder Andy Paez. Pretty much the same exact lineup as they had last season. Nothing really new there. It's going to look pretty much the same thing, as last year. And then the thing that improved drastically for them, the thing that they needed to win, pitching and defense over the Yankees, and they massively improved. Number one, Blake Snell. Are you fucking kidding me? Number two, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Are you kidding me? Number three, Tyler Glasnow. Are you kidding me? Number four, from Japan, Roki Sasaki. Are you kidding me? And number five, Big Red, Dustin May. Do you understand for a second how good the Dodger pitching has to be? Dustin May could be a number one on a shitload of teams in Major League Baseball. He's their five. Kind of like a Luis Castillo situation for our team, the Mariners. Fucking ridiculous. And then the closer, Tanner Scott. And Snell and Sasaki are high-profile additions to the deep group. And again, they're going to go to a six-man rotation because Ohtani will be in that rotation as well. I didn't even mention that. And then obviously they still got Tony Gonsolin, but he had a back injury lifting weights. So he starts the season on the IL. But it's just fucking ridiculous top to bottom. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers mollywop everybody and make their way winning back-to-back. Sure. And anytime that you don't know and then I end up seeing it later on, I can always do that for you. And Ohtani will be in the rotation. But again, they want to make sure they're starting off a little bit slowly. We'll see, how long it takes before they implement him right away in the lineup. You don't want to rush a guy. Anytime you end up having like Tommy John or a rotator cuff, you already have him hitting, pretty much every day. So then you're going to get to a point if he's going to pitch and hit, or if he's just going to pitch and not hit that day. So eventually, Shohei will be in there. But what a luxury. Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Sasaki, May, Gonsolin. Fucking ridiculous. But that's where you're going with that. All right, let's get a photo up here for not JT or Fernando. Rest in peace. And I'm happy that I was able to get my dad a autographed card of Fernando Valenzuela for Father's Day a few years ago as a gift. It was definitely, kind of a hard item to find. Not something that, I mean, you can find them on eBay, but as far as like finding them in your local card shops, almost impossible. But it was pretty cool that I was able to find one. And I've always loved Fernando Valenzuela. I got AEW Dynamite going on, and Tony Storm, one of the best talkers in the business. You got MJF for the men, but Tony Storm is insane. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on. I mean, Paige Saraya got, I don't know if it was like released or didn't get renewed. So we may see Paige Saraya back in WWE at some point, but we'll have to wait and see. Nice little black and white there, Fernando. And Fernando has an amazing signature as well. Very clean. And he did a lot for the Latino community. Latinos, Latinas. I mean, it was Fernando fever, and anyone that, was Mexican or Latino, and even, guys that weren't, that maybe if they were Dominican or Cuban, they looked up to guys like this because you didn't really see too many guys that looked like them. And again, anytime you can get someone that is, kind of an icon and is a guy that is a game breaker, and breaking ground into a sport like Hideo Nomo did for the Dodgers many years later, was the start of bringing the Japanese players into America. And Fernando Valenzuela, starting to be able to give you that, kind of Latino influence on the game. And again, he will be very sorely missed. See if I can find the Instagram post. It was quite a few years ago, but I mean, it is awesome looking. Let me see if I can quickly go through my feed and see if I can find it. Man, I'm just like flashback with all these memories. So many videos, so many posts, so many memories. Going down memory lane right now. All right, where are you, Dad? Where are you, Dad? Okay, I just got to the post where I ended up getting the Aaron Judge ball in Julio's rookie year when Aaron Judge had the 62 home runs. And if anyone is willing to break that record, it's definitely him. Oh, I think I'm getting close. Going back and seeing how chubby I was, too. Lost a lot of weight since then. Okay, I found it. Hell yeah. Oh, I don't know if it'll let me grab it. but it was on 2022. Numbered to only 15, and it has a patch. Obviously that part of the nameplate, on one of his jerseys and whatnot. I can't believe they won't let me grab it. That's a damn shame. I thought you were able to grab some of your posts from like Instagram and whatnot, but for whatever reason, it's not letting me pull mine up. Let me see. Yeah, it doesn't look like it'll let me grab it, but it's on my Instagram there. That's a damn shame. Judah in the building. What's good? I did see that. Judah in the building. What's good? Well, I think in the past, LeBron and a lot of the NBA players, they may have had like a cordial, where you understand what the media is, but a lot of players don't like media personalities and whatnot. But after Stephen A. started making it personal with Bronny and, and was talking about his son, at that point, like, the hatred and, we're done, like there's no mending fences, with that. So. But that was pretty much the main conclusion from watching that interview, that, they're not going to be bros. They never were bros. And, it shows you that everyone thinks that Stephen A. is a clown. He's not a sports reporter. He's just an entertainer, that speaks loud and, isn't right very often. What's good, bro? Yeah, Jordan and Kobe are above LeBron, no question. Yeah. I mean, but we also see it like in Hollywood, where you end up having a Hollywood mom, a Hollywood dad, and then you end up having a son or daughter that gets born and then they get special preferential treatment, and whatnot. So obviously, if Bronny wasn't related to LeBron, would he have gotten drafted? No, but he has been playing a little bit better as of late, ended up having his season high. A few days back, and then ended up going down to the G League and whatnot. But you have to understand too, whether you like LeBron or don't like LeBron, I think overall Stephen A. is a clown. You don't have to like, LeBron whatsoever. LeBron obviously is a diva. He's one of the greatest players to ever play. He's in his own world, just like any rich, super athlete. We can never understand what a daily routine of LeBron James and his family is about, but I think it was more of, trying to, not only stand up, for Bronny, but for the players also. And just to be able to let Stephen A. understand that the players don't really like you. It's like, we get it. There's certain people that are made to, report on a sport and whatnot. But, again, a lot of these guys, it's more like entertainment purposes. Like when has Stephen A. or Skip Bayless ever been like correct with predictions? Like, let's be honest. When have they ever really been correct with anything? All it is about, going over, topics that don't even need to be talked about. Oh, Dallas Cowboys going to the Super Bowl, this and that, if you want to argue just to argue and whatnot. But, again, it's not like they ended up squaring up or anything like that. But, again, I don't really like Stephen A. I'm not really a big LeBron guy either, and whatnot. But, you knew at some point or another, someone, based off their stature or not, will say something to one of these guys. So. Yeah, but the thing is, with LeVar Ball, he was right. He was a marketing genius, but if you actually look at it, 2 of them made the NBA. The third one almost did. Now the third one's a rapper, but they ended up being successful, even if the BBB Big Baller brand failed. But they ended up being, multi-millionaires. And, LiAngelo ended up being the best one, So, again, with LeVar, it's one thing to, protect your kids and hype up your kids, but again, the talent was there. And the thing is, you have to actually go back and look at, how LeVar coached his kids. A lot of people don't know this. He actually coached those kids really hard when they were lazy and they wanted to play video games and everything. And LeVar ended up losing his foot, just a few weeks ago based off the surgery, still in good spirits. But I think LeVar is one of the most misunderstood, people. Like, if you go back and look, at the way that he actually was coaching up his sons, that's the reason why they made it. If he wasn't so hard on them for work ethic, they would have never made it, or maybe only one would have made it, maybe 2, maybe, but again, not all 3. And obviously the third one now, Jello is, doing the whole rapping thing. Lonzo obviously never really could shoot. LiAngelo was always the most athletic. But, it is what it is. But I feel like with LeVar, it's a little bit different compared to LeBron, in my opinion. Yeah, well, Nick Wright's a fucking idiot, too. Almost everyone that's on TV is a fucking idiot. Let's be real. Like, how many people are really good on TV or in podcasting? Like, let's be honest, a lot of it is just for clicks, and just to be able to argue over things that don't even matter and whatnot. So, but the thing is, Stephen A's job isn't to be liked, but he's not good at his job. You know what I'm saying? So again, you can be good at your job and liked like Pat McAfee, but you're not in the same stratosphere. Again, it's all fake. At least Pat is genuine. Again, anyone that is fake, it's very clear who the people that are fake. Stephen A is fake. Bayless is fake. They're not genuine. And it's very clear to see that. At least it is for me. Yeah, diabetes. But whenever you see interviews of him, he's still always smiling and in pretty good spirits with all things considered. But I never knew he was as hard, on the kids. And that's the reason why they panned out, because if LeVar would have just said, fuck it, all right, you guys do whatever the fuck you want, then they probably wouldn't have made it, or maybe only one would have made it. But he really, instilled work ethic, and I respect him for that, that you have to really put in that energy and that effort. And when they wanted to play video games, when they wanted to sleep, he woke them up early. He made them stay out late, and he put in that time and that effort, which at the end, he had 2 out of the 3 that ended up making it. And now the third one is a rapper. So, and I think a lot of people don't really know the real story about LeVar until they make the documentary. And when they make the Ball documentary, when it ends up coming out, it'll be a kind of a cleanse. And I feel that for all the people that thought like LeVar is a douchebag, or, he's just trying to promote his sons and this and that, and, he's crazy, then you're really going to start to see like, he is a loving father, he's a great promoter, but again, with his work ethic and his teachings, he's a complete success. I mean, how often is it that you have 3 sons and they all, ended up being successful? I mean, I get it. We got guys like, the Watt family, and the Manning family. And every once in a while, you're going to get it, but, being African American, a brother, and, having to be able to hype up your kids, to a certain degree, and some people thought, he's just hyping them up. And remember, he was on Monday Night Raw with Vince back in the day, trying to hype up the Big Baller brand. But for every time you have ups, you're going to have downs, just like Big Baller brand pretty much folding, shoes falling apart. But they still ended up making it. And, salute to LeVar, been losing a foot, being a good role model, for his kids. Facts. Same thing with his wife as well. Oh, yeah. LeVar would say something like that. Yeah, but also too, Britt, you have to understand it wasn't just the Bronny stuff. It's also Stephen A. criticizing LeBron for years and years and years and years, and him not really saying anything. So you have to think about it like that. There's always a deep underlining story. It's not that, I have to defend my son because he sucks and he's in the G League and he got drafted just because, he's my son. He got into the league because of LeBron 100%, and he has some talent, but probably not good enough to beat in the NBA at this point. That's why he's going back, up and down, through the team and like the G League, but I think the underlining thing was more, hey, you've been fucking disrespecting me and talking shit on TV, about me, about things that may or may not be true. And I think that was the reason that the main confrontation happened. People wanted to put it like, he's defending his son. But I also feel that, if you go back to look at all the things that Stephen A. has said, about LeBron over the years, at some point, enough is enough. And if it, if it comes to that, where that's the, underlining reason, but then there's another reason, then sometimes, a plan comes together where, you can talk about, the Bronny stuff, but also, the disrespect to him personally, and, maybe teammates or whatever. So I definitely feel it wasn't just Bronny, it was a lot of buildup for all the shit talking, over LeBron's career from 2003 coming in until now. So. Anything else that you guys want to be able to go over? Yeah, but again, it's different though. We're talking about LeBron James, not us. We're not LeBron James. We're never going to be LeBron James. We're not going to ever be Stephen A. It's a different world that these people live in. It's like, they're not even really in touch with what normal people go through on a day in and day out basis. When you end up being, multi-millionaires, you sometimes lose touch on, certain things, in the world and whatnot. So, it's one thing if it's regular people, but, Stephen A. and LeBron James aren't necessarily regular people. So. Clubs line up for your mom? I got you. All right, let me queue up here and get that going. Okay, so let's see here. Now, John Berti started both games at the Tokyo Series at second base, where Hoerner obviously continued to rehab from October's forearm surgery back in Arizona. But manager Craig Counsell expects Hoerner to be ready to suit up for the domestic opener here in the United States. Veteran Justin Turner will get a little bit of time at first base as well. Amaya and veteran catcher Carson Kelly will have a timeshare behind the plate. Leading off for the Cubs, left fielder Ian Happ. And Ian Happ is, one of those guys that I feel is very underrated. He sees the ball very well. He can end up getting himself into an 0-2 count and then force a walk on 4 straight pitches after that. He may not be the most recognized leadoff hitter, but again, I do like what Ian Happ brings for the Cubs. Batting second, right fielder Kyle Tucker from the Astros. Cody Bellinger is out to the Yankees. You bring in Kyle Tucker, one of the best players from the Astros. I assume that Tucker will have a very successful season. Batting third, DHing, Seiya Suzuki. My Asian sensation brother, I see you. Batting fourth, first baseman, Michael Busch. Batting fifth, shortstop, Dansby Swanson. Batting sixth, playing second base, Nico Werner. And my favorite player on the team, not named Kyle Tucker, center fielder, the stud, Pete Crow Armstrong. Guy is absolutely phenomenal. If you're going to keep your eye on one player on the team, not named Kyle Tucker, it's definitely Pete Crow Armstrong, the most likable guy on the team, 100%. And if you play against the Cubs and you go against Pete Crow Armstrong and he ends up getting a few hits on you, you probably will lose. Batting eighth, third baseman, Matt Shaw, and then batting ninth, catcher, Miguel Amaya. But the most entertaining player, hands down, Pete Crow Armstrong. Facts. And then as far as their pitching staff is concerned, leading off, Justin Steele. Second would obviously be Jameson Talon. Third, Shota Imanaga, who actually had a pretty good season for them last year. Fourth, left-handed pitcher Matthew Boyd. And then fifth in the rotation, Ben Brown. Closer, Ryan Presley. And then with Javier Assad with a left oblique on the 15-day IL, the door is open for Ben Brown to claim the rotational job until Assad is ready. And then they also have Colin Rea as a backup option as well. So Steele, Talon, Imanaga, Boyd, and Brown. And most of those guys are lefties in the first four. Lefty for Steele, lefty for Imanaga, lefty for Boyd, and the only righty they have is Talon, and then obviously Brown, filling in for Assad until that oblique is healthy. Yeah, but there's a one thing about, trying to get clicks, and there's another thing about being disrespectful. And you got to think there's other things that come on social media that aren't on TV, like other podcasts and other things. So, again, some people, can take the verbal abuse, and other people can't, and again, whether or not, it was the right thing to do for LeBron and, Stephen A. to have that conversation here and there. It's a lot easier said than done when it's not happening to us personally. When you get, verbally attacked, over and over. Some people can handle it and some people will crumble, and again, not everyone will handle that type of scenario the same way. Facts. He said, new stars. I don't know about stars. We got Mastroboni from the Cubs, Donovan Solano from the Padres, but, a lot of the moves aren't necessarily going to be starting pieces for the Mariners, but I can review and do the Mariners over again if you like. I actually just did the Red Sox for Brett and you, but I don't know if you caught the end of that, Judah, but I can do that as well. So. But again, I definitely think it was more personal towards LeBron rather than the Bronny thing. It was just kind of giving him an excuse to kind of go up there based off the Bronny comments. But I think really what caught the nerve weren't the Bronny comments. It was just LeBron, had enough, and at some point, people snap, and sometimes they snap for the wrong reason, like Will Smith, slapping an individual, at an award show. Obviously that wasn't the right thing to do, and you just don't really know what goes on in, someone's personal life. Facts. You don't know what entanglement they may be in. All right, I'll go back and I'll do the Red Sox for you, and then I'll go back and kind of just give you a breakdown with the Mariners as well. So let me do that here real quick. All right, let's do the Red Sox here. Yeah, but you also have to understand that, Stephen A. has been talking about LeBron for like 20 fucking years, And again, it's not like every comment is going to be correct or true. A lot of these guys, it's clickbait, and you're saying things that you're assuming without really fact checking. I don't think anyone respects Stephen A. Or Skip Bayless, or a lot of the people that cover sports. A lot of these guys are fucking terrible. and they're not even sports journalists. They're just entertainers, period. All right, for the Red Sox, leading off, left fielder Jarren Duran. Batting second, DHing Rafael Devers. Batting third baseman coming over from the Astros, Alex Bregman. Batting fourth, first baseman Triston Casas. Batting fifth, shortstop Trevor Story. That's where the lineup is very, very good for the Red Sox, and I believe the Red Sox and the A's are going to surprise a lot of people this season. They're going to be better than they were last year. Batting sixth, right fielder Wilyer Abreu. Batting seventh, catcher Connor Wong. Batting eighth, second baseman Christian Campbell. And batting ninth, Ceddanne Rafaela playing center field. So with Bregman's bat, Devers is going to go to DH. Your lineup is loaded, but again, from 6 through 9, big questions. Abreu, Wong, Campbell, Rafaela. We don't really know if those guys are going to pan out or not. And then with the rotational, positions, you got Crochet in the trade. He'll be in the Cy Young, conversation, and he may end up winning it in the American League. There is a very good chance that Crochet could win it for the Red Sox. And then you got Tanner Houck, Walker Buehler from the Dodgers, Richard Fitz, and then Quinn Priester, and then your closer is Aroldis Chapman. So again, Crochet is going to be very, very good. If you watched him last season, very elite. And again, if he can play anything like he did last season with his former team, again, it could be a Cy Young winner or, a top 3 candidate for the Cy Young for the Red Sox with Garrett leading off, obviously, as their starting ace. And he is an ace through and through. And hopefully Buehler will be able to help them as well. Injuries to Brian Bello, Cutter Crawford, and Lucas Giolito. That's going to definitely test Boston's depth. Cooper Criswell and Sean Newcomb also being stretched out in camp as rotational options. So, yeah, Perk is an idiot as well. Again, and a lot of times, when you end up, having these former players, they think that this is like, oh, good insight. It depends on the player and if they actually have any fucking intelligence or not. All right, let's go and we can do the Mariners here real quick. Getting back here to the very beginning. And then obviously I got the A's in our matchup here tomorrow. So leading off for the Mariners, right fielder Victor Robles. Batting second, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Batting third, catcher Big Dumper Cal Raleigh. Off a 6-year, $105 million extension. No trade clause, no Big Dumper going anywhere else. And he's staying in Seattle, baby. Batting fourth and cleanup, left fielder Randy Arozarena. And with the combination of Robles, J-Rod, and Randy Arozarena, it gives us arguably the best outfield in the major leagues, player for player. Batting fifth, first baseman Luke Raley. Batting sixth, third baseman Jorge Polanco. Now, he sucked last year with Mitch Garver, but now he's playing a new position. He ends up, getting his eyes, tested, got some new stunner shades, got a new look, got a new kind of fit. So we'll see if Polo can, play as good as he has in spring training as Mitch Garver, and hopefully, he'll surprise us here in 2025. Batting seventh, DHing, Rowdy Tellez. We brought him in from a minor league deal in spring training. He's been good, and it's nice to be able to know that we don't have to wait 80 games to figure out who our DH is. Last season, Mike Ford. We've had guys like Mike Ford, Carlos Santana, Jared Vogelback. This type of player isn't any different than those guys. If they played football and they scored, it would be a thick six. These guys are big, they're thick, they're going to strike out a lot. But he'll be able to get some home runs and get some singles and doubles. I love Rowdy Tellez. Batting eighth, playing second base over Dylan Moore. Dylan Moore went like 1 for 20 in spring training. So I assume they're going to go for this guy with more upside, not only defensively, but we'll see what happens offensively, Ryan Bliss. And batting ninth, a little bit of an ego hit, used to be our leadoff hitter, but this guy is much, much better. Victor Robles, batting ninth, J.P. Crawford. And pitching for us will be Walter, a.k.a. Logan Gilbert. And I assume that if we can stay healthy, we got Brash, obviously healthy, right? You got, You got Santos looking pretty healthy. You got Munoz, right? You got a lot of guys. You got Troy Taylor, who was throwing the heat at the end of the year. And then we drafted Durangelo, a guy that can pitch lefty or righty. So if we can stay healthy, I think 88 to 90 wins is definitely possible. I think that we can definitely win the AL West. And if we don't win it and the Rangers win, we can definitely get second. And I'm hoping for somewhere between 88, 89, or 90 wins. Yes. Aroldis Chapman. I mean, Chapman has been everywhere. I mean, if you actually look at, all the places that Chapman has been, I mean, he has made his rounds on quite a few teams. So started off his career in 2010 in Cincinnati, stayed there for quite some time. Then he went to the Yankees and had a big run. Obviously a little bit of time, there with Pittsburgh, Texas, and then obviously, as you know now, here with the Red Sox. Correct. Yeah, and it's not like I'm defending LeBron, like I don't like LeBron. I think he's a diva. He's not Kobe. He's not Jordan. He's full of himself. Jordan and Kobe would never call themselves the GOAT. They have work ethic. They let the, points and stats speak for themselves. LeBron is a very good all-around athlete, and you could say he might be one of the best all-around athletes we ever have seen, but he is not better than Jordan or Kobe. And again, in his mind, he may think he is, but in reality, I think a lot of us know, and he knows he's not. Oh, Andres Munoz, my guy. One of the best closers in baseball. I honestly think too, I actually, also think too, with like Stephen A. and some of these people, I honestly think that a lot of comments that are made, they just assume that since they're on TV and they do this for a living, sometimes speaking truth and sometimes making shit up. I just don't think that these people think they're ever going to get confronted. And then when LeBron confronted him, he shit himself a little bit, because I don't think he thought that he would get pushed or punched or anything like that. But to have a little bit of verbal conversation back and forth, I think it shocked him. I don't, Stephen A. always talks a big game, like Skip Bayless and all these guys. But until you get someone to get in their face, it's like almost like a bully picking on people, until you get someone that steps up to the bully and then they gulp a little bit and they say, "Oh fuck, like what did I do?" Or sorry, didn't mean it, and then they start backpedaling, and whatnot. So, but I think that's kind of the gist of it. But again, I mean, if this was something that happened on the regular, where players were confronting Stephen A., Skip Bayless, and all these guys, I mean, and again, sometimes, if these individuals are at games, which they're not all the time, it gives an opportunity for them to do that. A lot of times it's just at the studio, at TV, on a podcast, where they can't really, be man-to-man, face-to-face. So, anything else that you guys want me to go over? And we got Reflect with a 3-er, Captain with a 10-er. Any other photos or anything else that you guys want me to do? But I definitely feel that the Red Sox and A's will be better, than what they were last season. So don't be shocked if they end up having better records and play a little bit better ball than last year. Daniel in the building. What's good? Take a quick look at the weather here. I got to go take Paisley for a walk, but I don't want to get absolutely drenched out there. Let me take a quick look. Oh man, skies are dark and gloomy. Mailbag, we already know who you are. Why do you have to come in with an alias? We know who you are. You can have a regular profile. You don't have to be mailbag. We're too smart for that here. We pay attention to everything here. How someone types, what they say, caps, no caps. And then we already went over all of the AL West. We did that earlier on. We did what? Yankees, we did Red Sox, we did Dodgers, we did Cubs. Braves should be pretty solid as well. Well, if Air was here, I would do it, but you know, he's not here, so. No, I was going to do Braves next. All right, let's do Braves for Natman since he's in the room rather than do a team that of someone that's not here, you know. All right, so with the Braves, their lineup is very, very good. And again, this is projected, you know, going into the year. Leading off for the Braves, former Padre, Elliot's favorite player, Double E, left fielder Jurickson Profar. And I think he'll play fantastic for the Braves. Batting second, third baseman, Austin Riley. Batting third, first baseman, Matt Olson. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, DHing, Marcell Ozuna. Batting fifth, second baseman, Ozzie Albies. Batting sixth, center fielder, Michael Harris II. Batting seventh, a new position there, catcher Drake Baldwin. Batting eighth, right fielder, the former Mariner, Jared Kelenic. And batting ninth, shortstop, Orlando Arcia. So really the only new addition for the Braves will be catcher Drake Baldwin. And obviously Jurickson Profar there in left field. Now, Profar's plate discipline will create many run-producing opportunities in the middle of the lineup. And then obviously when Ronald Acuna Jr. returns in May, then, you know, things will be a full, steady lineup. But for the time being, Profar will give them a little bit of oomph in the lineup while they wait for Acuna to get healthy. Then they'll have Profar, Riley, Olson, Ozuna, Albies, Harris, Kelenic, Arcia, and Acuna. And if you're looking at that, you know, player for player, that's pretty close to what like the Dodgers have. The Dodgers player for player, probably a little bit better. But I mean, the Braves are pretty fucking close. And if they can stay injury free, you know, they might be able to make a run. Really, the only team that can beat the Dodgers is the Dodgers, you know, based on, you know, their health. But if there was a team that could push them slightly, you know, besides the Phillies, you know, it might be this team here with the Atlanta Braves. And we've been saying that, obviously, Padres, Braves, Phillies. We've been saying those three teams, you know, kind of being, you know, close to the Dodgers, but not close enough. Obviously, Chris Sale, you know, being there on the Braves, no longer there with the Red Sox. Big loss, obviously, for Boston. Big gain for, obviously, Atlanta. Reynaldo Lopez in the 2-hole. Spencer Schwellenbach in the 3-hole. Grant Holmes in the 4. And then 5th in the rotation, A.J. Smith. Scheuer. and then they have Raisel Iglesias as the closer. So last year's preseason Cy Young favorite, Spencer Strider, could return in late April to join a rotation that includes eventual winner Chris Sale and 2 of the year dark horse Cy Young candidates Lopez and Schwellenbach. So the Braves got something cooking. They just need to be able to get Strider and Acuna healthy. And, with the additions that they've made, it could be pretty sexy for them moving forward. There's no information on him at the moment, so I'm not too sure, but that's all I got right now. I can look real quick though. Let's see if there's any update. Atlanta placed Murphy Ribs on a 10-day injured list Monday. Murphy ruled out 4 to 6 weeks after getting a fractured rib on his left side in early March. So he's going to the IL. And that report came out 2 days ago. So that's that information that you were looking for. Otherwise, we would have had him in that lineup too. All right, anything else that we want to go over here? I can stay on for another 20 minutes to just round it out, for an even 2-hour stream. We don't even have to necessarily do baseball. We can flip and we can do like food for like the last 20 minutes. I mean, unless there's anything else that you guys want me to go over, but I put a lot of time and effort, and going over all of this information and whatnot. And again, if there's anything else that you want me to go over, please holla at your boy. Otherwise, we can just do like food or whatever here for the last 20 minutes. I mean, I can always just end the stream now, but I don't mind. I got another 20 minutes or so. I got to go take Paisley for a walk and eat some dinner. And then we're going to be live at 7 o'clock Pacific tomorrow, the last game. But I'm going to be up bright and early watching my MLB TV free pass that I got through T-Mobile, and the first game is not going to be at 9 or 10 a.m. Unfortunately, it's going to be at noon, and that's Brewers and Yankees. And then you got Orioles and Blue Jays at 12:07. So I'll be watching both of those games simultaneously. Phillies and Nats at 1. Red Sox and Rangers at 1. Pirates and Marlins. Giants and Reds. Angels, White Sox. Guardians, Royals. Mets, Astros. Braves, Padres. Good matchup. Twins, Cardinals. Those are all at 1 o'clock. And then at 4 o'clock, Tigers, Dodgers. ESPN, Cubs, Diamondbacks at 7, and Athletics, Mariners at 7. So we got the last game of the night. It'll be a little bit late of a stream, but again, that's, we're on the West Coast. So there's a lot of times where I'm streaming until, 10 p.m. But again, with the rule changes, instead of it going, deeper into like 10:30, 11, most games are around 2 hours and 30 minutes to 3 hours. And again, I'm going to be grinding out quite a few games. And if that means that we end up having to skip, a NASCAR race or a Monday Night Raw, I'm going to have to get into the mode. I'm shooting for about 150 streams for the Mariners, but I might have to scale that back to, I don't know, maybe 120 or 130 if we are able to squeeze in, Monday Night Raws. Because I don't mind cutting back on the trucks or the Xfinity, and I don't mind cutting back on the Blazers and the Kraken, but I kind of want to keep doing Monday Night Raw as much as we can, or at least a couple times a month if we're not doing it every Monday, if possible. And I would love to keep doing the NASCAR streams for the NASCAR Cup if I'm just doing like one a week, but it really depends on when the Mariners are on. So, it'll be kind of a give and a take. We have been getting some pretty good support with the NASCAR stuff. Monday Night Raw, it's been a little light, but we've had a European tour, so the timing hasn't been right. But I definitely enjoy Raw and NASCAR Cup more than the Kraken or the Blazers or the Trucks or the Xfinity for the time being. So again, I don't want to just do one thing for the next, 5 months until, college football and the NFL come back. So. White Sox, yeah, they've already been eliminated from the playoffs. You didn't hear? Yeah, but I can do White Sox real quick. They will be the worst team in baseball again. Just like, the Giants. They got Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. They've already been eliminated from the playoffs, and the season hasn't even started yet. Done. All right, let's go White Sox. Let's see if I can find them here. All right. Well, they still got your boy Benintendi there. So leading off for the White Sox, right fielder Austin Slater. Batting second, center fielder, a guy they tried to trade, but they got nobody to bite, Luis Robert Jr. Batting third, the former Red Sox, Britt loves him, DHing Andrew Benintendi. She says, why the hell did you leave? Batting fourth, first baseman Andrew Vaughn. Batting fifth, catcher Matt Thaiss. Batting sixth, third baseman Miguel Vargas. He's wishing he was still on the Dodgers. Batting seventh, second baseman Lenyn Sosa. Batting eighth, left fielder Michael A. Taylor. And batting ninth, shortstop Jacob Amaya. And Benintendi has a non-displaced right hand fracture, and Slater an oblique strain. Returned to Cactus League action last week and are pretty close for being ready for opening day. And then for their pitching staff, Sean Burke is the 1, Davis Martin the 2, Martin Perez the 3, Shane Smith 4th, and Jonathan Cannon 5th. And then manager Will Venable has not named a closer just yet because they suck so bad. And that is facts. And eventually Drew Thorpe will be in the rotation, is what they're saying. But the right-hander suffered an offseason setback, recovering from surgery and a bone spur in her right elbow, and will now go Tommy John surgery. And it's crazy when you say a lot of these names on the White Sox, even if you're like a diehard, even diehards are like, who? Like, obviously people know Luis Robert Jr., because he was the best player. People remember Andrew Benintendi with a name like that. You're not going to forget him. Thaiss, obviously former Angel. Vargas, the former Dodger. But, some of these names, yeah, I'm glad I'm not a White Sox fan. And then the pitching staff, if you asked, a good chunk of fans, that aren't White Sox, they would be like, who? Sean Burke? Davis Martin, Martin Perez, Shane Smith, Jonathan Cannon. Like, you wouldn't even know if those were football players or baseball players. Facts. But they're going to be terrible. So if you play the White Sox, you're going to have a good chance for some dubs. I got you. Yes, I did. I did see that. Going based on one of the old school drivers from back in the day. Yeah, that's what they have him listed as right now, because they have Michael Taylor playing left field. They got Slater playing right. So there's some new additions for the White Sox. And then Luis Robert Jr. is playing center. So they're going to move Benintendi to DH. I would love for Benintendi to be back on the Red Sox. I know how much you love him. You got a jersey of him. Your boy knows. I look through all of your socials and everything. You already know that. We know things about each other. Yes, the Terry Labonte 2003 scheme. Yes. And at least you're not a White Sox fan. You're a Red Sox fan. Red Sox, trust me, they're not going to finish in last place this year in the division. Like I said, if I had to choose two teams, that are going to be better than last year and that will be a little bit more exciting, A's, Red Sox. And I'm not just saying that to be nice. Okay, I'm saying that because I believe it. And I think it will happen. Not saying that those teams are going to make the playoffs per se, but they're going to be more enjoyable to watch this year, and they're going to have more wins in the W column. LeBron heard us talking about him, huh? Decided to throw up a game winner. Still not better than Kobe and Jordan, but nice job for LeBron. All right, anything else that you guys want me to go over? Any other team? You let me know. Otherwise, for the next 13 minutes, we're going to end up doing food. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. I can't wait for baseball tomorrow. I feel like I've waited longer for baseball than anything. And we have. NASCAR, you only got to wait a couple months, but it seemed like a fucking eternity for me and Britt. But now baseball, even longer, going from October all the way now to the end of March. It feels like a lifetime has passed, but I am so happy that we are going to get into it. Yeah, like I said, they're recovering from the injury and whatnot, so probably we'll start off at DH and then maybe be in the running, in the outfield. So But again, the biggest, moves, getting Crochet, like, I don't know. Did you ever watch, Garrett pitch? Like, he legitimately might win the Cy Young for your team this year. That's how good he is. Like, I wouldn't say that if I, didn't do my research and watch the film and, kept up on his career. Like, he literally could end up winning, the Cy Young for the American League, joining that new team. And then I'm not a big Bregman guy, from the Astros with all the cheating with Altuve, but that's a big pickup, there. And I already like Duran, Devers, Cassis, and Story. Yeah, and the only other player that I had a question mark for that I didn't see in that story was my cousin, right? Masataka Yoshida. And obviously he's got a shoulder issue, so he's going to start off in AAA. And then once the shoulder issue gets better, then they'll see where they're at in the lineup. And if Devers is playing DH, that normally is what Yoshida plays. So, and obviously with Bregman, with the big money, you have to kind of maneuver guys around who's going to play DH, who's going to be playing a starting position. So they're going to have to figure out, something for Yoshida at some point. But that's another good hitter and another good player for the Red Sox that they have whenever the time is right for him as well. Hell yeah, you better be wearing the jersey. How are you feeling? Are you still sick or are you feeling a little bit better? Nice. You know what? I agree. It did. You know what? It rubbed me the wrong way. Fantasy was terrible for me. I did not, I don't mind that the Eagles won, but I didn't really enjoy the NFL season after fantasy. You ended up winning the championship with your family league, and that's awesome. And I'm so happy for you. I could live vicariously through you, but I've never finished not in the top 3, and again, everything in fantasy was just off. It just felt like the NFL and college football, again, Ohio State earned it. The Philadelphia Eagles earned it, but it was kind of a weird year in football. And it wasn't really the most enjoyable for not just me, but I think for some of y'all as well. Like, it kind of got to a point where, for even diehards like myself, I wasn't enjoying college football and the NFL as much as I normally did, overall, for a number of different reasons. Fantasy, catering from the refs to certain teams. Obviously, I didn't expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go all the way. I was cool with what happened with them. I know that they're going to be legit with Baker, so I have no complaints about Tampa Bay. Catering to the Chiefs, but it's not like they did it in the Super Bowl, obviously. So it's not like the Chiefs won and there was like this whole conspiracy. The Eagles won, and so we can put that to bed. And I don't mind Ohio State, beating us and obviously going all the way. Chip Kelly was really the X factor for them, and they had better top tier NFL players on their offense compared to Oregon. But again, I did enjoy the college football playoff, but they didn't get the seeding correct. They can't have people sit for such a long period of time. They need to be able to not have that much a time off, like a week off, maybe 2 weeks max, but not like a month, and I felt that definitely made the product not as good. But again, it was the first year in the college football playoff. So I think things will get better with the seeding as years go on. But I think you have something cooking there. I feel like the football season, it wasn't, week in, week out, it didn't hit the same way for me as it did in years past, which was kind of a weird year. But hopefully that year is behind me. And, I can't say when I'm going to do fantasy again, because I do want to do it. It is one of my favorite things. But fantasy kind of sucked the life out of me, and it kind of sucked the fun out of the NFL and college football out of me for a little bit, because again, I don't claim to be 100% right, but I feel I do have the pulse, on sports, and I feel that a lot of my predictions will come true. I got a lot of ESP moments, but no one is ever going to be batting 1,000. No one's ever going to be, 100% right. But man, last year was like, everything that was kind of like opposite, what you thought, like the opposite happened and whatnot. So I don't know what we're going to get for college football and the NFL this upcoming season, but I'm glad that baseball is here. I'm really enjoying NASCAR, even though I want Napa know-how to get into the winner's circle since Bowman Gray, since that didn't count for points. I'm enjoying NASCAR, and I'm enjoying WWE, and I'm going to enjoy the MLB. And then we can have that for spring and summer. And then once we get, into the NFL draft, and then, combine, and obviously into the preseason, and we'll get back into football when the time is right. But, we're getting into baseball season, and I'm excited for that. Oh, good. I was going to say, did you need me to come over and give some hugs? I'll be there. Yeah. And you didn't think that you were going to win it, for quite a few weeks, but again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So. Damn, over me? Damn, he went up the pecking order. I got to get myself a cool theme song like Cody Rhodes or CM Punk. I got some competition now. Golly. Yeah, I'm obsessed with WWE too. There's a few things that I'm obsessed with, but, WWE is definitely one of them. My buddy, my best friend, Justin said, I just watched Hell in a Cell Dark Side. Have you watched it? I said, no, not yet. Dark Side of the Ring always has some crazy documentaries. Nah, I mean, I need something better than Edge's theme song. Edge's theme song is cool, but it's not, like Judas from Chris Jericho. It's not Cody Rhodes, and it ain't definitely CM Punk. It ain't on that level. I mean, I got to have something top tier. I can't have something that's like a top 10 theme song. I got to be at the top, baby. Nah, I don't want Finn Balor's either. He ain't good enough either. I said, who are your favorite wrestlers? My channel is asking. We'll see what my buddy said. My buddy is around my age, too. He's only a couple years younger than me. So, we grew up in a relatively the same era, but I'm slightly older than him. You're funny. Sliding down the husband list. Damn it. All right, my buddy's writing back here in real time. Let's see what he says. He says the Hell in the Cell Dark Side was amazing, and he watches all that stuff. Anything like wrestling related, he's all over it. Let's see what he writes. He's been trying to get me to watch the what's the documentary called? Let me see if I can find it. What is he trying to get me to watch? Heels on Stars. Have you guys watched that? It's supposed to be like really, really good. My buddy's like, you gotta watch it, but I just haven't had a chance to watch it just yet. So, damn, now Garver's on the list too. How many people are on this damn husband list? Yeah, it's on Netflix. I saw that. That's where I ended up finding the name of it because he was always recommending it. So I just have too many things that I'm watching right now. X-Files, from the very beginning, Blacklist, Walking Dead, Shameless. Normally I only watch 1 or 2 shows at a time, but I don't want to really watch any more. He hasn't responded about favorite wrestlers unless he's thinking about it. But I know his favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels. I mean, he is my best friend, so I know that. All right, now let's see if he responded. Okay, here we go. He responded. He laughed. He said, and I know my best friend, HBK #1, right? Because obviously he's a Shawn Michaels guy. I've gotten him a lot of presents over the years of HBK stuff. Stone Cold and then Foley. Nice. That's good. Tom Brady, Mitch Garver, Benny Benintendi, Cody Rhodes, and Chase Elliott. God, I got my work cut out for me then. Jeez Louise. And then he said after that, Macho Man and Bret Hart. My guy's smart. My guy is smart. I don't really have like celebrity, crushes or anything like that. I like intelligence, So like, there any female can have like a model, playboy, kind of look, but that really, doesn't do it for me, Like I really like Anne Hathaway. She's probably my as far as I love everything that she's ever done. I think she's really versatile, classy, super intelligent. Incredibly pretty too on top of that. And I know that may surprise a lot of y'all. There's so many people that you could choose from, after, watching, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons of X-Files, Gillian Anderson, Dana Scully, I'm really liking that particular character. Now, obviously she hasn't done as many things as Anne Hathaway, but again, I don't really have celebrity crushes, so it looks like I'm on the pecking ladder. I gotta work my way up here for Britt, but that's okay. There's only one Orion, you know that. If Trish Stratus came up, or what, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, or any of those, yeah, no, I'd rather take you to dinner than Trish Stratus, because with Trish Stratus, it wouldn't be real, it would just be, just a moment. So I choose you over Trish Stratus. Now someone needs to step up their game. Anybody else got anything else that you guys want me to go over? I got to go take Paisley on a long walk and eat dinner and whatnot. But let me know. But my buddy, he's like, the episode is one of the best that he's ever seen. He said the match was so bittersweet because it made his career, but it took a toll on his family and fucked up his body long term. Facts. I mean, I think Trish Stratus has aged like a fucking wrestling god. I mean, if you look at any female, back in that era, I mean, Lita still looks great. Tori Wilson still looks great. Stacy Keibler still looks great. Trish Stratus, is still working out like Tori Wilson does every day. So again, if you're rich and you have money and you have access to, plastic surgery and other, Botox things if you want to, and you're working out every day, yeah, I mean, chances are, if you're naturally pretty, but then you have money, you can extend the prettiness for a little bit longer and whatnot. But Triple threat match at Mania. I think CM Punk is going to win, and Paul Heyman is going to turn on Roman, and he'll be CM Punk's manager moving forward. That's my sleeper spoiler pick. Now, obviously, having Seth win or Roman win would be much better for the fans, especially Roman. But to give you the little twist that, people aren't thinking of, again, you can have Paul Heyman flip on Roman, go back to CM Punk. He owes him a favor, and CM Punk will maybe get an assist, from Paul Heyman outside of the ring to help CM Punk win. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but who knows if that will happen. Or Roman wins but loses Heyman. That would be my second prediction. CM Punk winning and getting Heyman, or Roman winning but loses Heyman in the process. Of like Roman catches Heyman trying to help CM Punk, and then then the bridge is broken, and then they go that route. So Nikki Bella is an idiot. I can't. I don't know. Anyone that doesn't have a brain is not for me. There's a reason why John Cena left. But John Cena is kind of a psychopath himself. Anyone that's ever watched the show, back in the day, and the way that he would treat her, and the countertops in his house were more important than her. John Cena is kind of a narcissistic, crazy asshole. I imagine there are moments where he's a normal person, but based on that TV show, he is like literally the most insane person I've seen on TV, based on like his material things. I get it if you got like ADD, or you have these like phobias and whatnot, but it's like if Nikki tried to cook him dinner and go out of her way, and even though she's not a very good cook, but she tried, but then you just shit on that whole like opportunity that she was trying to do, and then you cared more about your fucking countertops, like Cena's kind of a douchebag. Yeah, but the woman that he's with now is incredibly intelligent. Yeah. He's like, how dare you dirty the dishes? Cena is a psychopath. But we'll see where the heel run goes. Well, I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. I always have fun spending time with my favorite people. Kind of interesting we didn't get a message back after we called out a certain individual on the stream. We know who you are. Come on, my guy. Well, I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys. You guys enjoy some fucking MLB baseball. I'll be watching at noon, right when it starts, and then we'll be live tomorrow at 7 p.m. for the Athletics and the Mariners. And hopefully you guys will be able to come through and say hello and hang out as well. Britt, love ya. Sarah, Natman, and everyone else in the building, appreciate you guys very, very much. And I got one question for you. Who talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I'm out. Okay, go Mariners. Tridents up.